takes a lot of your time, your energy. It takes your very soul to go beyond your means and create a future for others. Our guest today has done just that, made lemonade out of some seriously hurting lemons. Our guest today is John Feal. He is the founder of the Feal Good Foundation. I'm Gary Jacobs, and I'm guest hosting today for Chris DiMaggio. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me.
So, John, tell us a little bit about the Feal Good Foundation. What is the foundation about?
Well, the Feal Good Foundation is a product, is a reaction of the lack of action that our federal government took after 9/11. I should never have been in existence. After 9/11, and listen, 9/11 is the most horrific day this nation's ever witnessed in our generation, other than Pearl Harbor. But people remember those who died that day, and rightfully so. The innocent lives lost and the heroes lost. They deserve all the credibility and nobility that they've gotten. But since 9/11, we've lost over 1,500 people to 9/11 related illnesses. And starting after 9/11, right away, people started to get sick. And many passed away. But even those who survived while they got sick, these illnesses are debilitating. And the federal government for years denied that we were sick.
John, do these people have to be within a certain parameter or distance from the event?
Well, I mean, listen, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to have a PhD to know that the toxins, you know, if you took every toxin individually that was down at ground zero, individually put them in a bottle, you'd have a skull and crossbones on the bottle saying harmful to swallow. So then if you combine them all together, it was a toxic soup that no one's ever seen before. Nobody went to school for 9/11. So yeah, there's a geographic zone now mapped out for the healthcare part of the bill, and a geographic zone mapped out for the VCF, which is the victims' compensation part of the bill. But you know, before we started walking the halls of Congress in about 2004 to get this bill passed that we got passed in 2010. But in the process, people were losing their jobs and losing their houses and weren't able to make ends meet and keep their utility on. So we started the foundation, and there's nothing to brag about, but we've helped pass 3 bills in Congress and donate $2 million, and even donated a kidney. And I'm not saying everybody has to go to the extreme of donating a kidney or $2 million, or dedicate the rest of their lives to helping those less fortunate. But I think anybody, any human being, the true human spirit is to feel other people's pain or feel their happiness or feel their suffering. And I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but I feel that every day.
You know, I think in today's society, we use the word hero very loosely. We say all these, you know, sports people are heroes and just average people are heroes. But to me, a hero is somebody who purposely goes into harm's way. Certainly anybody who serves in the military and volunteers to defend our country, in my mind, is a hero. But also anybody who went to ground zero to try to save lives and recover bodies, those people are certainly heroes. My question, what made you get involved in this cause? Were you at ground zero in the recovery effort? What made you take on this cause?
Sure. Listen, a hero is somebody who's noted for something noble. I am far from a hero, and I think most 9/11 responders are, listen, I'm an Army veteran too, with the 101st Airborne, and many people in the military won't call themselves heroes. And the people that died that day on 9/11, they're truly heroes, truly heroes. I got down to ground zero on the 12th, and I worked there for 5 days before I was horribly injured. I'm the worst injury at ground zero for the injury itself and the amount of time spent in the hospital.
What was your injury?
8,000 pounds of steel roughly crushed my left foot, and I wound up spending 11 weeks in the hospital with gangrene. I wound up losing half of my left foot. And you know, people always say, "Oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh my God, you lost half of your foot." You know, that pales in comparison to those who are sick and dying or who have died. When I got hurt, I wasn't married. I had a good paying job. And then what really makes me tick, my whole life, I don't need 9/11 to know right from wrong. I needed 9/11 to show everybody how my mother raised me. And even before 9/11, I was captain of the wrestling team. I always helped the handicap, always worked with the elderly. And helping people from 9/11 who were sick and injured, whether they were cops, firefighters, construction workers, was just another platform and a larger platform for me to actually help people And any credit that I get is probably overrated because it's my board and the people that we solicit to help these men and women who are sick and dying. And whether it's an elected official or a corporation or the people in the towns that these people live in, we have no problems going to them and asking for help.
Who were the types of people that donated to you, to your foundation, right?
Sure.
Who were the types of...
Most donations came from everyday people across the country. I've sold a T-shirt and a sweatshirt in every state in this country and in about 12 countries. We've had corporate donations. I've had donations from celebrities, sports athletes, all sorts, but mostly the internet's been our friend. And listen, we have the #1 9/11 hit website, and it says nothing about 9/11. It says Feal Good Foundation. And while it was a play of words on my last name, Feal, everybody thinks about 9/11, they think of the worst. Trying to find something good and positive. You know, on 9/11, evil men with evil intentions wanted to do as much harm as possible and hurt our country. While it happened in New York, it was a direct hit to our country. But where there was evil, there was good, and I believe that the good and the American people came together. And we're trying to, well, like Gary said in the introduction, we're taking bad lemons and making lemonade.
You're trying to help the people who have suffered in some way, both. Do you help the people who suffer psychologically as well as physically? Is there any kind of parameter of the type of people that you help?
Suffering is suffering. How fat is fat, how tall is tall, everybody's perception is different. But to me, whether you have a broken finger or post-traumatic or stage 4 cancer, you're suffering. And you're suffering because of 9/11. You know, you can blame the terrorists all you want, but you really have to blame the federal government, the state government, and the local government. And I have no problem saying that. A circus monkey could have did a better job when these people became sick, because for years they said we were crying wolf. We weren't crying wolf. The wolf ate us. And I don't care what you suffer from 9/11. We're going to do whatever we can to help you. And as for post-traumatic, we take that serious.
In fairness, didn't it develop a certain amount of time to have some of these things come to the front to determine whether they were in fact illnesses or not? Didn't some people have issues with that? What are some obstacles there?
Sure. Well, listen, everybody's immune system's different. So somebody who got cancer in 2003 and somebody who got cancer in 2009, they got the same cancer. They worked the same amount of hours on the pile. So again, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be one. But you don't need to have a PhD or a 100-year degree in science to know that the toxins at 9/11, the absorption through the nose, mouth, and skin, and your organs like the kidneys and the lungs that filtered these toxins caused all of these illnesses. You know, why do we have centers of excellence that treat us? Nobody's ever apologized for all these men getting sick and dying, but why do we have centers of excellence? The centers of excellence were built to treat us, and that's their way of saying, yeah, we screwed up, we'll help you, but we're not going to say sorry. Yeah, you know, I would have been good back in 2002 if somebody just came out and said, look, we're really sorry, we dropped the ball on this. But not one elected official has a set of Abe Lincolns to say I'm sorry, and shame on them. You know, and listen, most of the New York delegation has been great to us, but when you go to a Republican or a Democrat across the country, they said this was a New York issue. But then we had to educate them, and we had to teach them like they were fourth graders, and no offense to fourth graders, because most of them are smarter than members of Congress. The thing is there's 435 congressional districts in the United States. 430 of them were represented at Ground Zero. Somebody from every state came to New York during the cleanup and the recovery, and the 10-month cleanup, and helped. And that gets lost in translation because nobody ever talks about that.
Didn't know that.
There's now a national 9/11 program called LHI that treats 12,000 responders across the country for their illnesses.
John, I'm ashamed to say it, but before I learned about your foundation and met you, I really didn't give much thought to the people who are now dying, these 1,500 people and more who unfortunately are going to pass. And I read on your Facebook, you know, almost weekly about another person passing away from 9/11, although on 9/11 we always watch on TV as they read all the names of the people who were murdered on 9/11, and you know, we all get sad and we see it. Do you feel like these first responders are not getting the recognition that I think that they deserve?
That's a tough question. You know, most 9/11 responders think that the American people forgot about them, but I don't think that. American people have enough on their plate. And I think during the anniversary or when there's breaking news on something going on in the 9/11 community, they're reminded, and it comes forward out front in their thought process. But people have to go to work. People have to worry about a job and putting food on their table. So the human beings programmed to move forward from a horrific event. The problem is 9/11 responders, many of them are bottled up at home, not working, unable to put food on their table. And there's a lot of resentment and anger and visceral because the way the federal, state, and local governments treated them. So I understand where it's coming from. So, you know, a lot of times when I try to articulate a story, or if I'm talking at a college or a high school or an elementary school or doing an interview, I got to separate the advocate from the 9/11 responder because I have to bipolar in a way.
Can we define the first responder? I mean, just for the audience clarification.
Sure. You know, I'm not a 9/11 first responder. I'm a 9/11 responder. I responded to 9/11. A first responder, take 9/11 out of the equation, is a cop and a firefighter and an EMS. A uniformed personnel is a first responder. A 9/11 responder is somebody who worked there, who was either paid or volunteered and worked in the capacity of bringing in supplies or working on the pile right next to those who were in uniform. And most people, when they think of 9/11, they think of firefighters and cops, rightfully so. But you don't need 9/11 to call a cop or a firefighter a hero. They were a hero before 9/11, as soon as they put their uniforms on. They just got put on a larger scale. They made them gods. But the non-uniform worker, the construction worker, the union worker, we outnumbered them 4-1. We outnumbered the uniform worker 4-1. And they could not clean up Ground Zero in 10 months without those uniforms, without those cranes, without those bobcats, without all that equipment. They could not have done it.
Before this event, you mentioned that you had 3 bills passed in Congress.
Sure.
Were you politically active before this, or did this inspire you to become, because the system is obviously not easy to learn, and from my experience, it's sort of set up to keep people out who they don't want in. Did you find it hard to break down those barriers to get in, or were you welcomed with open arms by everybody because of your cause?
We were welcomed with open arms in front of the camera. We were told to go scratch behind closed doors. When we went down there, we were naive, we were gullible, and it was a learning process. It was, every time I go down there now, it's still a learning process because you go to DC with a certain game plan and you leave scratching your head going, oh. You know, where I come from, 2 + 2 is 4. 2 + 2 in Washington is a different number to them, and we had to learn as we went. We went down there being polite. We went down there asking. We went down there pleading. But there was a time we went down there literally threatening them. And listen, when the bill got passed in 2010, I was almost arrested by the Capitol Police. They were waiting for me. They were ready to handcuff me, and one thing led to another, and Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney saved me. Next thing you know, the Capitol Police were taking pictures with me, and we were exchanging patches.
Which reminds me of a story I heard about you putting your feet up on somebody's desk. I don't know if that's folklore or if that's a true story.
It's a true story.
and who was that?
Well, you know, again, over the years, especially, you know, I made enough trips to D.C. to circumnavigate the earth twice. That's a lot of trips. And a lot of times when I went to D.C., I was on crutches or in a cast because I've had a couple dozen surgeries on my feet. And, you know, physically and mentally and emotionally, it's draining. And when you go into an elected official's office and have to educate them about the aftermath of 9/11, it got frustrating. And then when we did get meetings with higher level elected officials, we took advantage of them. And there was a young lady who was Speaker of the House who granted a 7-minute meeting with us. And I was in no mood to be cordial or play games, and my feet was on her desk. And
I'm sure they're not used to that.
No, and my lawyer who was sitting next to me told me to take my feet off the desk, and I used words I can't say here, but I said they're not going to come off this desk until you get a bill out of committee, our bill out of committee. Congressman Pallone from New Jersey, who supported us, held up our bill in his committee. The very next day we did a rally in front of his office in 40-mile-an-hour winds, pouring rain. That bill came out of committee. You know, what I learned about members of Congress, they're paranoid, and they're medicated, and if you get under their skin enough, they cave. And every American has a right to believe in a cause that's righteous to them, and especially when it comes to human life. and any member of Congress that puts special interests or their parties or their ideologies before human life, they're not fit to lead.
They placate you, don't they?
Yeah, they did.
Just set aside,
Well, listen,
I really want to deal with you right now.
that now has become one of those things that just bounce off us now. They can't placate us anymore. You know, the day before the bill got passed, the Capitol Police ready to arrest us. We needed 2 votes to get the bill passed through the Senate. Senator Collins called the Capitol Police on us. The Daily News confronted her. She said no, she didn't do it. An hour later, she admitted to doing it. My team of 9/11 responders who was down there advocating with us, they wanted to string her up and lynch her. I took it as a compliment that we basically shut down D.C. I was quoted in the paper saying, I'll put a bus in front of the airport. I won't let them go on Christmas vacation. And 2 hours later, Senator Collins voted yes, and we got the bill passed.
What you have to do, right? Don't you have a right to protest the First Amendment right to be able to get something accomplished? But that was stymied along the way.
I think there's protesting when you do it in numbers, but you can protest. You could protest in a small. I think numbers are always great.
Yeah.
You know, we did 4 rallies on the Capitol. I brought down 10 buses. We had hundreds, if not thousands, of responders. But I also had a team of 12 guys that I could put in any office that were articulate enough to have a meeting with anybody. And I think when you want to be effective, you take a team that's dedicated. And listen, I had enough bail money on me to get them all out of jail that day.
Right.
You know, and they would have got arrested for me. They would not only would have got arrested for me, they would have got arrested for the 9/11. You know, I get too much credit because those 12 guys, no one knows their names, and yet they've helped tens of thousands of people sick from 9/11.
There's some kind of charter that the Feal Good Foundation
There's no membership. There's no. If you need help from the Feal Good Foundation, they go to our website. They either my home phone number is on the website, and it's been there for now 10 years. And somebody calls or somebody emails me, I answer them pretty quick, and we do whatever we can to help them.
My brother was down there at 9/11 in the cleanup for a while, and he's got an issue. Maybe someday we'll have to reach you. That's
everything
okay.
everything you're saying is really should be, to me, common sense. Like you said, these are people who put their life at risk, and they're really suffering. These people, mentally and physically, and I'm sure. And then once they go, of course, their families suffer. And you seem to be the voice of reason, and you can get the message out. And you know, I've always felt we need more people like you, not career politicians, not attorneys, just a regular person who's got common sense and is not afraid to do what's right for their constituents. Have you ever considered, now that you spent so much time in Washington and know your way around, have you considered running for office yourself?
Sure. I'm not going to run though, Gary. I'm going to walk. I'm going to be wearing bells, and I'm not going to lie. I've been itching. The last several years, I've thought about it, but whatever I do, I'm 100% committed to it, and when I do walk, I want to be committed to it. And I think when that happens, I think the people will be pleased because I'm going there not for a salary. I'm going there to make a difference.
Right, that's what's important. I know you with your foundation is nonpartisan, and whoever supports you, doesn't matter what party they're in, but have you found that any one of the major parties is better than the other one, or is more compassionate to your cause and more willing to help you, or is it strictly individuals?
At the federal level, state, or local?
Well, I guess I'm concerned
Congress,
locally because this show is being shown on Long Island.
Locally,
officials.
It didn't matter if you were Republican or a Democrat. In the statewide, it didn't matter if you were Republican or a Democrat. But in the federal government, Republicans opposed us, and they fought us tooth and nail. Well, how were we going to pay for the bill? Well, it took me forever to learn what to pay for was, and well, the bill got paid. The bill's paid for. Our bill, the James Hidroga Health and Compensation Act, is the only bill in Congress that is completely paid for.
And how is it?
And it's paid by taxing foreign companies 2% doing business in the United States.
So it didn't incorporate any of their funds, no government funds, no allocations, nothing like that.
And it reduces the deficit by $433 million a year.
How's that?
Because you're taxing foreign companies 2% in the United States. We don't need the 2%. It's a lot of money. We only needed the $2.7 billion over 5 years. So, when we do go back to renew the bill, because the bill expires in 2016, we didn't have to deal with the Tea Party in 2010, because we were right before the Tea Party. And people say, well, John, how are you going to do this? How are you going to deal with the Tea Party? Tea Party's never dealt with us. So, I look forward to sitting down and meeting many of them. If they're going to oppose us like Republicans or Democrats did in the future, then they're going to have to face what we're willing to offer and what we're willing to do in the name of human life.
Tell me about the 3 bills that I understand you passed in Congress. What are they? What are the 3 bills and what do they do?
The first one was in 2005. It was called the Walsh Amendment, and Senator Hillary Clinton at that time, the White House took $125 million back from New York State Workers' Comp because New York State Workers' Comp wasn't using it fast enough to comp 9/11 responders who were injured at 9/11. So we walked the halls of Congress, and with Senator Hillary Clinton at the time, we got it attached to the Katrina emergency spending bill with a concept. And then the Sadroga bill in 2010, which I'm probably too famous for, and which I don't deserve the attention I get. And then in 2011, the interoperability bill. It was a telecommunication bill. And on 9/11, all those cops and firefighters died because their radios didn't work. They now passed the bill where, God forbid, there's another catastrophic event. Everybody will be on the same communication and frequency. And Senator Rockefeller from West Virginia called Senator Schumer and Gillibrand to ask me if I would go back there and help that bill pass, and we got it done.
Great. I know at Ground Zero there's a lot of news now about the museum that they're building and the memorial that most of us have either been to or seen. Is there anything to remember the first responders? And if not, are they remembered at Ground Zero as well as the people who were murdered that day?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're a 9/11 responder and you go to a museum, that's all you need. You know, anybody who needs something materialistic, they go in there for the wrong reason. Just being there is enough. But the museum opens this summer, and there will be part of that. I've already been the test guinea pig for the museum, and I got to tell my story. So there'd be a kiosk there with responder stories, and I donated some of the artifacts from 9/11 and over the years from the Feal Good Foundation that are going in the museum. So there's going to be a thing for 9/11 responders at the museum. And again, 2,751 innocent lives were lost on that sacred ground. So if they made that museum more so for them, I'm okay with that. The families and those who lost loved ones are what that memorial's about. The responders, the secondary thing.
Right. And what I understand there's one locally in Suffolk County that you've done a park to recognize them. Can you tell us about that?
That's my baby. I don't have kids. That is my pride and joy.
And tell the viewers about that don't know about it.
Donating money and passing bills in Congress compares nothing to that park in Wisconsin. 4.5 years ago, we came up with an idea when there was just a beautiful open area right there after they redid the intersection of Gibbs Pond Road and Smithtown Boulevard. And with the help of Senator Legislator Kennedy, he got that land donated to us for $1. Right. And with that being said, we started the 9/11 Responders Remembered Park. And now there's a 60-foot granite wall in there, a 17-foot high clock, and it's just a beautiful park. And it honors those who have died since 9/11 from their heroic actions, and it's the first of its kind in this nation, and I couldn't have been more proud. The city, New York City, is now asking me, we want to do something like you guys did, and we want you to sit on our committee, and we want to emulate what you guys did in Wisconsin, and that's the biggest compliment you can get.
Yeah, sure, that's great. You mentioned originally the number is so vast. When you say 1,500 people have died since then, it's just, you know, every one of those people has a family and a story behind them. I mean, it's just a staggering number.
Let me just touch on that. It's 1,500 people that we know of. And again, somebody from every state came here. So John Smith, the volunteer firefighter who came from Minnesota, might have went home and got sick and died, and the local doctor didn't know what they were looking at, and didn't contribute to 9/11. So we're a little over 1,500, but if I was a betting man, I would say it's closer to 2,000 or 2,500. But I could tell you in the next few years, we'll outnumber the 2,751 innocent lives lost on 9/11, because we haven't seen the next wave of cancers, because the asbestos cancers are coming, and they take 15, 20 years to manifest, and we're at year 13.
So we're running low on time. What can people, the viewers, do who I'm sure are going to be touched by this story? What can they do to get involved? Where can they donate? Obviously, I'm sure you always need money.
Sure.
But as you said, you had a lot of people go down and protest for you, and you have fundraisers. How can people get involved? What can the person viewing do? Because everybody wants to help.
I think most people can help from the internet and call their local congressman on Long Island, and they all support us anyway because they have to, or they'd be out of a job. We don't solicit donations, and we don't ask anybody for donations. If they want to donate to us, then they could donate to us. They'll get a letter from me, and we'll say thank you, or I'll send them a T-shirt. But I don't solicit donations. I don't feel like I have to ask for money when I'm trying to help somebody. If somebody wants to donate to us, it is greatly appreciated. But a lot of times now when people donate to the Feal Good Foundation, its sister organization, the 9/11 Responders Remember Park, needs that money too to maintain itself. Yeah.
What's the website there, John?
Well, you can go to fealgoodfoundation.com, F-E-A-L.
Okay.
You know, and it's on our Facebook page at Feal Good Foundation, and we have a comedy saves lives. You know, so there's a, you know, it's, again, you can call me at 631-724-3320.
One quick question I have as an advocate, I know Gary wants to ask this question too, excuse me, Gary. We're trying to get things to happen too, like in our case, we do a lot of things like family law, we go to Congress people. What advice could you give me real quick, because we only got about 20 seconds left?
Don't accept no for an answer,
How about-
and be committed. Don't say, well, I got to go home for an hour and change. Stay there. If you're wet, get wetter. If you're cold, get colder. And remind yourself why you're doing it. And don't let anybody motivate yourself but yourself.
John, I'd like to thank you for coming today. I know you're very humble and you don't like to be called a hero, but not only are you a hero for what you're doing, what you have done, you're also a role model for people to get involved and not just sit back. I'd like to also thank Chris for allowing me to guest host today. Political perceptions, media-driven narratives are rapidly carrying away our social order, the common good and the common sense of all Americans. What should be changed is too slow and seems endlessly tied up in knots. Americans are fast becoming victims of this brain salad surgery. We ask you to help us return to our country to its former viable self. Until then, we will continue to tell it like it is. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.